Good morning. Welcome to Saturday Morning Coffee. My name is Lance McKinnon, and I'm here today with the one and only Tiffany Linderman. Good morning, Tiffany. How are you?
I'm good. I got my coffee. I'm set. How
Yeah.
about you?
I always have my Fifth Acres coffee from Good Brothers Cafe in Harrisburg, PA. If you don't have it, you should get it because that's where the stuff is at. So, I'm excited. I'm ready to go this Saturday morning. The weather is turning. There's lots of yard work to do. And so I don't know, is it just you and I today hanging out, or do we have a guest?
Oh, get ready for it. We have Tanaine Jenkins, who is a keynote speaker and a recidivismist. I just made up a word. I don't know if that's true, if I said it right, but I
You're
said
making
it
stuff
like
up
five
now, right?
times. Yes. So she's doing amazing things. And I think everyone's going to love hearing her story today.
Good morning, Tanaine. How are you?
I am well. Good morning, Lance. Good morning, Tiffany. Hi, guys. How are you all?
Awesome. You are absolutely, you got your coffee. We need to get you a Saturday morning mug and some
Yes,
Fifth Acres coffee from Good Brothers Cafe. So we'll take care of that. So, but girl, you are on fire. And man, you are doing some amazing things. And I can't tell you your story. I love your story. I love talking with you, your energy, your tenacity. Man, it is mind blowing. You and I have talked, and I've been excited to be able to sit down and share this with all of our followers and viewers. We're in Second Chance Month, and and I'm a big fan of second chances. If you don't believe in second chances, then man, you've been living a straight narrow life and probably lying to yourself. Just keeping it real. Um, but however, I can't tell this story, but I mean, I'm just going to leave it up to you. And just thank you. And I love the shirt. I'm going to just say right off everything. I am everything.
absolutely.
That girl, you are everything.
Thank you.
And what you're doing is absolutely remarkable. And I'll just let you just go ahead and let it rip from where it started to where you're at and how you're just changing the
Absolutely.
world.
Uh, I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And you said that no one can tell my story like I can, and which is true because no one can tell someone else's story. Because if say if you were to tell my story, you might lose or you might forget something or you might add something.
Mhm.
So telling your story is such a powerful thing, and that's why I do it. So in 2010, I was arrested, March 25th. It was 12 years. March 25th, I was arrested for defrauding a financial institution. Honestly, my original charge was offenses against intellectual property. But after the fact, and they did all the investigation, I was charged with defrauding a financial institution. I was sentenced to 2 years prison, 5 years probation. My 5 years turned into 8 years because I actually violated, but that was later on down the line. While in prison, I was actually sent to prison. It was August of the same year. So it took them a little while, the trial and plea deals and everything. Got to prison and was sent to a work camp called Levy Forestry Camp. And it's where people are the inmates, they pull trees and they were shipped out. That's the main reason for this work camp. I was the GED teacher in prison. So I had the cake job and I was in the trailer teaching the women there how to math, science, anything they needed to pass the GED, which was, I believe, the most rewarding job you could have had. I stayed at Levy Forestry Camp until they shut it down in February of 2012. Because I don't know if you all know, but in Florida in 2012, they closed 11 institutions, 4 work camps, 7 prisons, which made the overcrowding even more overcrowded.
Mhm.
After leaving, I went to the low work camp for the remaining February, March, April, 2 months of my sentence. Came home, went through this re-entry program, this awesome re-entry program called Operation New Hope. Operation New Hope helped me get a job. Before I went to prison, I was a business analyst making $60,000 a year. After prison, I was a logistics specialist making $6.25 an hour. Even when working 7 days a week and overtime, I could not pay all my bills. A year later, I got another job making about $3 more, but it had bonuses. And if you know anything, if there's bonuses involved, people will work to make their bonuses. So I went from making about 18,000 to a little bit over 40. I felt a little bit better about myself. And I progressed from there. But in July of 2019, I lost everything. I lost my job. I totaled my car. I lost my relationship and I almost died. And that was the lowest part of my journey. And I didn't know what to do. I had to reinvent myself. I had to change the narrative. A year after that, I lost everything is when I felt it. And then it was the darkest place. And a friend of mine, we had a conversation and she said, one day I hope that you feel like you're enough. And from that, birthed Everything I Am, which is a organization that is geared toward helping returning citizens believe and know that they are enough. And I wear the shirt, I am everything, because my tagline is, I am everything, flaws and all. So I teach people how to embrace their past and tell their story and take their power back when they tell their story. Because if you allow somebody else to tell your story, you've given them all the power. And that power is supposed to be yours. So I did Everything I Am. And then I did the lock line, which is another apparel line geared toward those who have locked hair. I've been growing my hair for 14 years. So I have that apparel line.
Yeah, I'm short on my hair.
Yeah, just a little bit. You can do it though. You can do it. And then in this year has been a phenomenal year because I've been speaking more. I've been talking to high school students about the mistakes that they may or may not make and how to get through those mistakes like I did. I had the pleasure of being featured on PBS and the CW channel, Reform Alliance, FRRC, Florida Restoration of Rights Coalition. I spoke at the Capitol in February at a press conference talking about licensing for returning citizens, because a lot of people don't know certain licenses you cannot get being a returning citizen. Like if I wanted to go and inspect houses, I can't get a license to do that because I'm a felon. And now I'm just trying to, got a surprise. I'm trying to move forward and just bring everyone. I talked to my former self. So I talked to the person that I was 10 years ago. I taught the person that I was 5 years ago, just to let them know that, hey, come on with me. I can show you. I like to say I'm not a travel agent. I don't tell people where to go. I'm a tour guide. I take them there. So that's pretty much my story. Did I cover everything? I hope so.
Yes, you did. That is so amazing because that was a lot. And I actually kind of go back and because I know you kind of jumped into like apparel but like I said, I want all of our listeners to know, followers to know is, we're talking about revamping your life. You know, you were a career person. You made a mistake, and it was not a conscious mistake. It was like one of those 30-second things that cost you. But from that tragedy, we'll say, caused triumph.
Absolutely.
And we always have to have, that's that testimony where we have to go through something to get to something. And unfortunately, that was the path that you went through. And we're not going to go into great details of everything, but I know because we kind of just jumped in and people were like saying, how did she go into jail and she was the GED teacher? It's like you just don't get that automatically. But
Which
no, but
is true.
you were a career person who made an unconscious decision.
Yes.
So you were educated. You had military as well. Uh,
Yes, I was in the
the,
Air Force.
yes, in the Air Force. So this was just a 30-second unconscious decision that happened, and but now that 30 seconds is you're sowing seeds and planting
Mm.
harvest like nobody else is because a lot of times people say, well, I was a criminal, and now in jail God touched me and so forth like that. But
Mhm.
no, your story is unique. And like you said, nobody can tell it like you can.
It's
And how you're telling it is it's so impactful because this generation needs to hear it. Because if we can prevent them from making a mistake,
yes.
um, if we can prevent them, like I said, I talked to my younger Lance. If I could prevent younger Lance from doing the
Mhm.
things that he did, maybe this wouldn't have happened. But maybe that's how God had it planned. You
I
know.
I, I believe nothing happens that is not supposed to.
Hmm.
My issue was that I walked around not believing that I had enough, but I didn't know what my enough was. So when you don't have anything to measure something to, you're always going after something that you will never reach. So when I found out what enough was for me and what enough looked like, it changed the game. Like it's like, okay, I know where my finish line is.
Hmm.
Before I didn't have a finish line. I just kept running. What am I running to? Who knows? But once I get to the finish line, then I create another one. And then I go to that finish line. So now I have healthy boundaries and I have my measurements of what actually is enough for me. And that was an issue. And therapy works. But
Yes, but
I didn't
therapy is good.
therapy is good.
Everybody should go to therapy.
Everybody should, I am an
Everybody should,
advocate for
yeah.
therapy. But when I got into therapy, I was diagnosed with ICD, which is impulse control disorder. So I was impulsively doing things, not thinking about the consequences. And everybody was like, I have ICD too. It's different. Like I did what I did that landed me in prison just to see if I can do it. I didn't do it out of necessity. The money I didn't need, nor did I want it. I just wanted to see if I could do it. And that's how I operated pretty much all my life. Let me see if this works.
Hmm.
Let me see if I can do this. And that's how I operated. And now that I think before I act and I know what enough looks like, I don't have those issues. And I say, if you don't diagnose it, you can't treat it. And a lot of people are sitting in our prison system with undiagnosed issues that are going untreated, and then they recidivate. And that's why I'm a recidivism strategist, to make sure that does not happen.
And you said it greatly there is that, just not in our prison systems,
Mhm.
but just in corporate America, in everyday lives, in everybody's homes. And, Tiffany and I always say our favorite thing is everybody's carrying around that invisible backpack of something.
They're
You know,
carrying something.
you're
Absolutely.
carrying something. Like you can't be that flawless. I know you and I talked in depth about that. So I know
Mhm.
Tiffany has a question. I can see it.
Oh, I always have something to talk about, but no, I mean, we all carry an invisible backpack or weight that we're carrying that nobody else knows about.
Mhm.
But I think that when you were sharing a little bit about the story of being in prison and having others that are going through their own battles, they don't feel like they're enough and feeling like they're worth anything. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but feeling like they're not worth anything, that there's no
Absolutely.
reason to try. And to me, I don't know if it was therapy or what it was that got you to the point where you started to see that you have something to offer and how you set those goals for yourself. And I love that. It's baby steps, right? It's not saying I'm trying to become the president of the United States tomorrow or in a year. I'm thinking, hey, I'd love to, read a book and I'd love to learn something from that. And once you've read that book, then maybe you're like, hey, I want to help teach others about this book, and sort of you take it each one step further and further till you get to the point. And I love how you said you reset different goals for yourself, because once you've achieved that, that is a success for you that you can take and be proud of and then keep going with it. So
Absolutely.
I think that's amazing. And I just would love to understand how other people, or how you would encourage others to be able to do that for themselves.
So I have a basic acronym, and it's called feel. I feel all my feelings now. A lot of people, they suppress. No, I'm gonna feel all my feelings in the moment I need to feel them. I'm not gonna allow these thoughts to fester and me not feel them. And then, like in 2019, when I lost everything, feel it a year later. So I teach people how to feel, and that is to forgive themselves, because yourself is the hardest person you have to forgive. Embrace their past and tell their own stories. Other E is to elevate their thinking. And then the L is to look beyond their now and their circumstances here. Because so many people, I like to say, I'm not a pig. I do not wallow in mess. And so many people stay stuck where they are. And they don't even try, like you said. If they're feeling worthy and worthless, why even try? Especially when you have people in your ears telling you you're not going to amount to anything. So you have to look beyond your current circumstances and push through and move forward. And I know it's easy.
I have another question for you, because I'm thinking, if you were feeling that way, or the person next to you was feeling that way, a lot of times it's easy for people to say to remove yourselves from negative people. I hate to put it that way, but in those scenarios, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are feeling that worthlessness. And I'm not saying they should feel worthless, but if they're not feeling like they're able to do these things, I guess how did you get to that point where you started to see your worth and start improving your self-talk about yourself?
Honestly, I'm sure you guys, know what negativity bias is, right? Negativity bias, it's us as humans, we are programmed to think of everything negative first. It has the most impact on us. That is what we remember the most of any negative experience. For instance, if you were to go into a fancy hotel, ambiance is beautiful, the view is gorgeous, bed's comfortable, you walk into the bathroom and you see a spider. What are you going to remember about that stay? That spider you saw in the bathroom? You won't remember how beautiful everything else was, because we're programmed to look at the negative. So when I would sit on my bunk, affirmations were a big thing. And I was the positive one. I did not say one thing negative the whole time I was there. And if I thought it was in my head, I wouldn't voice it, because your thoughts are your things. And what you speak is what you bring in.
Yeah, you put it into the universe.
Exactly. So I was the person that people knew to come to if they needed a good word, if they needed somebody to lift them up. I was that person. So with me being the teacher, people looked up to me in that way. And there's nothing that strengthens your faith more, or strengthens your person, you personally, than someone else looking up to you or needing you. Because when you're helping someone that's less fortunate, are you helping someone and pulling them up to where you are, you realize, I do have something that is worth something. I have this. And once you realize that you can help other people, that changes your mindset. I am worth something. I do have something I can give, something that I can offer. And so that's how I was able to do it, because I saw that I had something that someone else needed. And by me giving it to them, it made me feel good. So I kept giving. When you give, it feels better than receiving, honestly.
Yes,
At
I
least
say
it
that
does to
all the
me.
time. I said the blessing is in giving.
Mm-hmm.
I just you give and you give, and you really touched on something is that you reached back and helped someone else, and that is really a key opponent. I've always said iron sharpens iron.
Yeah,
You wanna surround yourself with those people that are going to help you elevate. Like my dad always says, grab the coattails of somebody you want to be. You
absolutely.
know, grab on the coattails of somebody you might not be there yet, but
Mm-hmm.
keep hanging around them until you get that knowledge,
Yeah,
until you're actually them, and then you turn around and give it back. And you pull somebody else along. So it's always like I call it that vessel. It's the
mm-hmm.
same vessel, different vessels, but the same oil.
Yes,
That's just being poured into somebody else, and you just can continuous flow from vessel to vessel, and that is really important because you're in an incarcerated environment, and people have that stigma of like everybody in there is bad.
yeah,
Not everybody is in there bad. People made mistakes, and a difference between and there are some that are bad. I'm not gonna just clarify that there are some, but there are some that are good that just made unconscious decisions.
absolutely.
And then we know a lot of individuals uh, who are doing magnificent things. God have touched them, and they're using their power, what their worth is, to reach back and help others. And we need to see more of that
We do.
in this crazy world with everything going around. Is that if we're not helping each other grow, we're going to fall apart as individuals.
I agree. I agree. I like to, when I was in, like, the correctional officers, they got to know me because I was a GED teacher and I didn't cause any issues. And a lot of them would look at me and say, Jenkins, why are you here? And I would say, well, you see, I committed a crime. So that is why I'm here. But they would tell me, you're not supposed to be here. No, no, no. The judge says I am. So I am here and I'm going to do what I need to do so I can get, on the other side of this. But to have people see who you actually are, regardless of where you are, it also fed my passion to become more and become better. When you have that encouragement from even your peers or someone that's supposed to be over you and they see you as an equal, that helps. It strengthens your self-esteem. It boosts your confidence. And that is something that a lot of us need. Just somebody to say, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
And I see who you are.
Our younger generation needs that. They need to be seen because we've had some guests on now that we've talked a lot about mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
suicide prevention, anxiety disorders, bullying, suicide, things of that nature. But you know what? If somebody is not being, like as you say, feel, or have that feeling,
Right.
they're gonna express themselves. People express themselves in a negative way to try to get attention. And that is like one of the key things is when I'm talking to the inner city kids, I'm meeting them on their level.
Right.
And they're saying to me, well, Mr. McKenna, how do you know? I was well, because you might see me in this position now, but you don't understand the mission that I was on prior to getting here. Uh,
Right.
my road has been long and curvy and windy, and God has taken me to I'm not even going to say my knees, He's taken
Mm-hmm.
me all the way to the floor. And, and I put my trust into Him. And once I've given up my control of trying to do things my way, uh, and He said, okay, now I'm going to teach you how to go back and help others. And so they can go back and help others.
Absolutely.
And that's making a difference in people's lives every day.
It,
right there.
It absolutely, like last week when I was speaking to the students at the school, the teacher said, you know what? Nobody has ever kept their attention like you keep their attention. And I said, because I'm truthful and I'm not sugarcoating anything. And I'm telling them my truth so they won't end up, going down the path that I travel. Because I'm sure they know somebody that went to prison. So they're like, oh man, she went to prison? She doesn't look like she went to prison. Oh man, she owns 2 clothing lines? Doesn't look like she owns 2 clothing lines. Oh man, she make all this money? And I tell my students, I like to call them my students, that all money doesn't have to be loud money. You can have quiet money and be successful, because it's not everything that you see on TV. I said, get quiet money. Shh, it's fine.
Yes,
Your money doesn't have to yell.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Love it.
You don't have to own the whole neighborhood.
Right.
You might own it, but don't tell nobody about
Exactly. I was like, I have on 2 gold chains under my shirt. You can't see them. I said, it doesn't need to be shown. It's just for me. So yeah, it's fine.
Yes,
but I love to talk to the youth, because one, the generation today, they don't hold anything back. They're going to say it if they think it. And when I was growing up, it was stay in a child's place. Children are to be seen and not heard type deal. And now these teens, these youth, they're pushing back, not to be disrespectful, but because they see the struggle that you went through, and they think that they may be able to do it a little bit better. And I think that we should give them some space to try to see if they can do it better. Because I know paycheck to paycheck is what my household was when I was a kid. I don't live paycheck to paycheck now because I did it differently. And to give someone like you said, to show them and reach back and show them, hey, this is what I did. They're like, okay, I see what you did. I think I could do it better. Do it better. That's what evolution is. Being better. So I love it. I truly do.
Yeah, and it's really important, and you and I talked in depth about telling your story, and everybody tells their story. And I told you my story.
You did. You have a phenomenal story, sir.
I told you my story, and I think we were both preaching in the kitchen that day. But I grew up on the system.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up. My birth mother did everything she could, but I grew up on the system. Where I'm at now is not where I used to be. I'm thankful for the village, Mustang Nation. I always put out there to all those people who poured into me.
Mm-hmm.
To help me get to where I am. And I always give them credit. But what you're doing is a little bit different as well too, because a lot of mentors only just focus on, we see African American men out there, working with African American men, youth, boys, and
right.
But you're helping youth girls.
I am,
which is
for the girls.
Yes, that is very important, because I have not seen a lot of that. I know when we say we're talking to a broad band of students, but you do kind of focus on youth girls.
Yes, I focus on youth girls, and I focus on women that are in the system and that are transitioning out, because there's so many programs for our men that sometimes I feel like women, they are forgotten. 1 in 8 prisoners that are in the system are women. Yes, we make up just 10% of those that are in prison, but 1.9 million women are released from prisons and jails each year. Who are helping them? So I'm determined to make it heard and make my voice real loud with these women and teach them how to transition. And women have different needs than men. granted. And there's a lot of men, so much more men in and out than there are women. However, women still need help. And with the reentry programs and the trades and the vocations that are given in prisons, they're given to all the men. When I was in prison, the only thing we had was the GED class. And if you already had your GED, then there was nothing for you. There's nothing for you. At the main compound, they did have cosmetology, but you either had GED or cosmetology.
Wow.
What kind of programs do they have for the guys? Like, so it sounds like there's 2 programs for women. Like, did they have like 10 different types of programs, or what did that look like?
So what I've seen in men's prisons, I made up a word, in men's prisons versus women. So some have automotive. I've seen screen printing in men's prisons. I've seen vocational, like welding. I've seen shop, automotive. Like, they have a lot of different trades and vocations that men can learn and get certified in while they're in prison.
They didn't have like shop for for women or screen printing. Okay.
No.
Wow. Wow.
And the thing is, even with these men getting these certificates, some of them still require an occupational license that they don't have access to when they get out.
Yes.
And they have all these hopes and dreams and aspirations. And then when they come home, like, hey, I'm going to do this welding. I'm going to go and be landscape person. And they can't get an occupational license to do it because they're a felon. And just imagine what happens to their self-worth then.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
so
that's why we're trying to get that.
I don't think a lot of people knew that there was such a huge gap in what's offered in the system for men and women. And I want to give a shout out to Lester Young, who is with Path to Redemption right now, and he is really fighting Congress. I mean, that king is standing up loud and proud, and he was in the system for 22 years.
Yes,
and his Path to Redemption program, and he's on fire. And Lester is absolutely making a difference in the world with those men. And not only is he helping them get more certified, but he's also fighting Congress and speaking to Congress and getting laws changed, which is absolutely amazing. And I know that you work with Lester.
Yes.
Like, you guys are involved with Eric Thomas, one of the biggest motivational speakers out there.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to make sure that our followers understood that it's like, you just didn't get up there on stage. I mean, you're working with some of the biggest names out there, and Eric Thomas is one of the biggest names out there.
He is.
And you are right in there with him, and doing stuff with him, and trying to change lives. And
I want to give.
You are.
I want to give a quick shout out to Desmond Meade, Dr. Desmond Meade, who is the president of the FFRC in Florida, and the deputy director, Mr. Neil Voltz, because they are doing awesome things. Lester and I actually were lobbying for the same bill in 2 different states, occupational licensing. So he was knocking down doors in South Carolina, and I was knocking down doors in Florida. So we have the same mission. And I told Lester, I said, I want to do what you're doing for the men, for women. And he said, what's stopping you? He said, why aren't you? And I was like, yes, sir. That is. So he was like, that is what you're supposed to be doing. So do it. And I said, okay. And I've been I hit the ground running ever since. He was like, well, why aren't you? And I was like, 10-4, good buddy. So
that's it too.
He's absolutely an inspiration to me.
Yeah, and then you have authored a book.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. I actually just finished, and it's going to the editor. I just finished it yesterday. Crazy, right?
Oh, wow.
And when I finished it, and I was like, Am I done?
Oh,
I'm done. So it's called From Prison to President, 5 Ways to Succeed in Your Second Chance. And it will be out, if not April 25th of this month, because that is my birthday. It will be out next month in May.
That is
So I'm very excited about
congratulations.
that.
Congratulations. And that is absolutely phenomenal. And I know because I'm in the process of writing my first book, and it's not easy.
It's
It's
well,
not
actually, this is my
easy.
4th book.
It's your fourth book.
It's my 4th book.
Your fourth book. Oh, excuse me.
But
There you go.
I must say, this is my first book on this actual topic. I published 2 books before prison. I published a fictional book called A Different Kind of Love. And like I'm a spoken word poet. So I published a book of poems called This Is How I Cry. And when I came home, like when I was in prison, God told me, you need to write this book. And so I wrote a book called The Gospel According to Poetry. And I actually technically didn't write it. What I did a call for submissions. And I received authors or poets from around the globe, and I put them in this book. And so I think I represent about 15 countries in this book with 100 authors or so. So
Wow, you just put it out there
yes,
and
I
it
just
came.
put it out there. I was like, hey, so I want to write this book called The Gospel According to Poetry. And I want the gospel to be spoken through everyone's eyes. Like I didn't put a filter on religions or anything like that. I wanted everything, because at the end of the day, everyone believes in something. And that's what the book was about, basically believing in something.
And we all need to believe in something.
Yeah.
And in this day in the world, I mean, we all got to be grasping on something. And after these last several years, a lot of perception. I've seen people grow. I've seen people regress, unfortunately. I'm trying to grow. And I always use the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Um, I give that book out a lot to a lot of individuals. It's a real simple book by Spencer Johnson, but I've probably read it about 25 times, maybe 30 times, in different stages of my life. Because you talked earlier about being stuck and having to change with times. And, you have to recognize that yourself because things will fly past you.
Yes.
One minute you're in the fast lane, and if you don't keep up, you're you're the buggy in the right lane now, and people are flying by. But
Yes.
you are showing men and women. I'm not going to just say youth. I mean, because you completely have touched me in a whole certain way, and I know I'm looking forward to working with you on what we got to do. But you're not just touching youth; you're touching men and women's lives on all platforms because it's what you're talking about on stage really correlates with everybody's life at some point. What you're saying is your message is that feel can go to anybody.
Yes.
Your acronyms to feel can go to anybody. Just walk out the room and throw a rock, and it should hit everybody because we all should be thinking that way and feeling that way and operating that way. So thank you.
When you know better, you do better. Absolutely. So you have to educate people when you see the lack. Like if they don't know, how are they supposed to do it? You have to educate people.
Mhm. Well, that's the key. What's that, Tiffany?
No, I was just going to say absolutely. I mean, that's part of the vision, I think, in doing this podcast is to help to share messages to others that they don't know, right?
Mhm.
And I love the part of it is diversity. Some of it is learning from past mistakes, or helping through tough times, or sharing great stories of just, happy, joyful things that people have going on in their lives, or sharing about cultures. Like even going back to our first season, we had Timbrel who joined. She's helping to help share different cultures with different individuals across the country and outside of the country. And so it's just amazing how I think that this is part of that platform. And I think Tanaine, when you go out and you're sharing as a keynote speaker to others, you're helping to make that difference and that impact, and hopefully helping others to see like their self-worth, and sharing the I am everything message, because you said this at the very beginning, and it just like resonates with me, is changing the narrative. And so I actually was fortunate enough, over the last week, we had a meeting and we talked a little bit about changing the narrative. And this last 2 years, we can look at how horrible it was and just keep talking about that. But if we start to change our narrative and say that at the end of the day, we learned something and we're going to do better from what we've learned, and we're stronger for it, we're going to make an amazing difference in the world. And so I know you're an absolute person and an advocate to make that happen. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. What I learned in the military is the only thing that is constant is change. So I like to say stay liquid, because liquid, it'll change in anything it gets into. So stay liquid and don't fight it. Don't fight it.
Yeah.
Because if you fight, this is just the way I am. No. Be better. You can be.
Yeah. And one of the great things about what you're doing, or any mentor, or any motivational speaker, or any guest that we've had on here, we've always talked about, you always have that one kid in the room that might not be saying anything, or the student that's sitting in the classroom, but they're watching. They're watching what you do and your character. And I say this to a lot of kids today, and not just kids, but professionals. What you're doing on the field and off the field, somebody's always watching you.
Always.
Excuse me. But somebody's always watching you, and you're impacting somebody's life all the time, whether you know it or not. Whether it's the person at the grocery store, the old lady walking across the street, just you're always impacting. You should be always impacting, because we're above nobody, and we're all going to the same place, hopefully. And it's really important, like you say, giving back brings you joy. And I know that, for me, giving is one of those things that I find so much joy in that. It's one of the great things about this podcast, that it's unfiltered. It's not Hollywood money. I mean, we're regular people on a Saturday afternoon, enjoying great conversations. And, and what you're doing is, I think you're the trailblazer of what is yet to come. There's going to be so many more after you. Always a true believer that somebody's got to cross the river first, and then bring everybody else with them. And you're lighting it up in Florida right now. To our listeners who are throughout all the United States and several countries, they're sitting back and they're listening, going, "I am everything." You know what? I needed this message. I needed to hear that today. And how many times does that happen when you go, "I needed that message today"?
Well, when we spoke before, one of the reasons why I started to share my story, or I got into it, was 2020. Everybody was on lockdown. And what did we do? We all took to social media. I was on TikTok. I was TikTok famous. I was, until I deleted my account. But I created this TikTok video, and it was about a 15-second long, if that. And during this time, we were making TikTok videos, and we would just point to the words, and they would come up on the screen. So on the 8th anniversary of the day I was released, I did this TikTok video that basically said, 8 years ago, I was released from prison. I made a mistake, but I am not my past, and you're not either. Keep your head up. You can do it. 600,000 views later and about 2,000 plus comments and probably around 1,000 shares, I realized that people needed to hear it. And I didn't realize this. I didn't come to this assumption. I read the comments and people said, I needed to hear this today. Or they said, I just got out of prison and I've been struggling. Thank you. Or, you know, you have mothers in there. My son is in prison, or my husband is in prison. And thank you for this word of encouragement. I'm going to show this to them. I'm going to send this to them. And from that video, I was like, you know what? People need to hear that it's going to be okay.
Yes.
And that they can do it.
Yep.
So
And just hang in there.
Yes. And that was pretty much what I was saying. And it resonated with so many people. And I had no idea that it would. So that's what started this whole journey of me telling my story.
Yeah.
Besides my friend telling me that she hoped that I was enough.
Yeah,
One day I realized I was enough.
I don't know. Did you mention you're working with the bridge? I know that you talked about the kids and everything, but I don't know if we mentioned about the bridge, the organization.
The bridge organization is called, well, it's the bridge, and it bridges the gap that struggling high school students face with graduating. And in order to be in the bridge, you have to be 2 or more years behind in academics. So and it's only a select few that are chosen for the program because they want to graduate and they want to do this. So I go into a couple high schools and I talk to their programs about entrepreneurship, about making mistakes and getting through their mistakes, about decision making and overcoming their past, and just telling them that they don't have to be stuck in where they are right now and that they can move forward regardless of what anybody else tells them. And I like to end my messages with them. I tell them that they are flawless and dope and don't let anybody else tell them otherwise. And they are some really cool kids in that program. They make me smile every time I go. So
yeah, that's absolutely. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Oh no, I was just smiling. I believe it. I believe that I mean, just seeing you today and hearing your story and how inspiring it is. I know the impact that you can have on the younger generation. And that's amazing that you know, not, I'm sure it's hard enough and that you're busy enough every single day doing what you do, but the fact that you take the time to give back just speaks volumes. And so I'm so inspired by you, and hopefully others that hear this too have similar stories or different stories of things that they've overcome, and sharing that story for other people allows them to know how to navigate tough situations or get through things that we feel like we can never make it through and see on the other side and survive it. But you're showing them how you can thrive at the end of the day.
A lot of people think that prison is a death sentence. A lot of people think that they will never be able to come back from it. And I'm living, breathing proof that you can overcome it as long as you feel and as long as you make a plan and stick to it. That's the biggest thing, is to make a plan. You'd be surprised what writing your vision down and making it plain will do for you.
Yes, that is true. That is key. You know, there's one thing of speaking it, but when you write it down and put it in front of you, it's very powerful. You know, it's very powerful. And I think Steve Harvey said it best. You know, the vision board.
Yes.
You know, I challenge people to write down a vision board, and he said write down 200 things that you want to do, and you think, oh, that's easy. I can think that. No,
It's
you
not.
probably get to you get to about 75, and you start going, But you know what? You get there, and then once you know cross that off, but you know you got to write it down so you can see it. You have that reminder, and you know, and you don't put a time frame on it, and you just keep continuously, as you said, the more you give, the more you receive. And I say that every single night. Zig Ziglar said it best in his book. You can have anything in life if you serve enough people. And I think that's true.
I like
And what you're doing is you're serving people in Florida, but I guarantee you, people who are listening in there today are going to go back and think and resonate to this story and go, I might not have gone to prison, but I might know John, Joe, or Jane, or whoever it may be, or even myself. How can I make a difference
right.
in this world? And that's one of the things that Tiffany and I always talk about. Anybody who have children, and every motivational speaker that I know, or person who's a mentor or a volunteer, is like, what's your legacy? What's your legacy going to be? What's your dash?
Yes.
And
Between those two numbers, those
yeah,
2 years, what is your dash?
what is your dash? And and that's something that I say a lot. Is like, I want to plant seeds that I will never see harvest. And and one of the craziest things about technology is I'm a little slow with it, but when I see old pictures that are popping up now from 10, 12 years ago, um, some of my old youth kids, it was pictures of me with them, and I was like, man, that was 12 years ago, and I was like, and I had already started planting seeds well before then,
Right.
but I know what they're doing now in life, and they're planting seeds, and it's just like I said, different vessels, that same oil, and you're truly a trailblazer for the women's rights and equality, because like I said, I think you opened up the eyes with your comment today about. I don't think I even knew. I mean, I guess I didn't know myself that there was only those options for
Hmm.
women available, and that's not fair. We're living in different times now
We
where
are.
equality is a must. In the workplace, in the homes, um, job force, all across. There's nothing women can't do, men can't do. You know, to a degree. And who knows? It's not get too political. We're not a political platform, uh, but no, but you know, but opening up the eyes to all of our listeners and followers, I guarantee you, probably 99% of everybody who's listening, like including ourselves, were like, I didn't know that. That was the only options for
Yeah.
women,
It's
and that's not
and
right.
and also when you only have a certain amount of time in prison, like I only had 2 years. So even though I was in college when I went to prison, I couldn't take any college courses because I only had 2 years. And I think 5 years, if you're sentenced to 5 years or more, is when they start be able to offer you college courses. But I wanted to say, when we were talking about planting seeds, there's this quote, and it says, if you want to harvest for a year, plant wheat. If you want to harvest for 10 years, plant trees. If you want a lifetime harvest, plant people. So I live by that. You have to plant people, and you plant people. You both plant people in specific places. And this podcast, it adds water to the people that you are planting. So it's pretty dope that you guys are doing this.
Thank you.
So I am grateful and thankful for both of you for giving us a voice. So big up.
And I'm like, you're saying that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just saw that online. And I'm like, wait a second, you probably posted that online. I was following you. I love that. I love that. Yes, plant people. That's beautiful.
That is absolutely phenomenal. And I know that you're extremely busy. And thank you for blazing it up in Florida. And you know what? And we might not even know the seeds that were just planted from
Mhm.
this podcast and other states and so forth. But I know that people are going to be moved like I was moved. And you know what? It just that's the great thing about it is. you don't know. Like I said, that's why it's always watch what you're doing on and off the field. And it just, that's the thing, great thing about technology is that we can touch lives in California today and plant a whole harvest out there
Yes,
just
sir.
through what you're doing. And it's just absolutely amazing for being a trailblazer. And God bless you. You are everything. And
Laws
I
and all.
yeah, and yeah, and the locks, and author, entrepreneur, CEO, military. Thank you for service. I mean, you're everything, and there's so much to come, and I'm going to enjoy working with you on the mission, and we got a lot to do.
We have a lot to do.
Yep, and God bless you. And I know it's Saturday, and I'm gonna let you get out there in Florida because
It's a
the weather's
beautiful day outside too. I'm going to the beach. So
yeah.
I'll send you pictures.
Thank you, thank you. We got the nasty pollen going on right now here in Pennsylvania, but we come out at night. Uh,
Got it.
because that's like the safe time. But but honestly, keep making a difference. You're the blueprint for many generations. Man, it's been our honor to have you on our show, and I am excited to work with you, and I'm excited to be able to share your story. We're excited to share your story with everybody, and as Stefan and I say, the universe is our playground, and we can do anything we want,
Absolutely.
and we will. So,
Absolutely.
all right, thank you.
You.
Thank you.